All right, everybody, time for round number 6. I'm going to pass it on over to Riley and Corey, who I think is going to be pretty excited about this matchup.
Put that grit off your face.
Corey's about to explode here by the sounds of things.
Sorry. Oh, the camera's up. Okay, sorry, I'm excited.
G'day everyone, welcome over to the desk here. Oh, sorry, to our feature match area. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, Marnie, for that excellent introduction. And I think we're all looking to you, mate, to explain what we're about to see on the screen here. Jeskai Breach, dude. This is a deck that you have really been bigging up. And you know, as we sort of prepared for this event, we discussed the different decks, what we're likely to see. And I tell you what, I have never slept more soundly than when you were walking us through how this deck works, because oh my goodness, it's complicated as hell.
Yeah, I think everyone was kind of blacking out whenever people start describing the Breach lines, because it is a very complicated deck that not only can combo win but can also attack the opponent. So it leads to that really tough dynamic of it's really tough to play against both the aggro side and the combo side.
Let's be a little more serious about this as well, and hopefully you can talk us through what we're looking at here, because you know we can laugh and joke about how complicated this deck is not, but at the end of the day, you know, we're looking at players here 4-1. This is a pro tour. You need to know how to play either with this deck if you're choosing to play it, and if you're not, you need to know how to play against it. Yeah,
absolutely. Maybe it wasn't the most popular deck, but 7 people did decide to play this deck, so a good percentage of people decided to play it. So it is a very tricky deck.
All right, well, let's find out what it's all about here. We see a very familiar face in Modern now, Ragavan, the Nimble Pilferer, coming down for Mark. Not a key aspect of this deck in the traditional sense, more the fact that it's a cheap legendary creature.
Exactly, and Ragavan, the stock in that card did go down quite a bit, so we actually see Mark's deck only playing 2 Ragavan, which is kind of shocking because of lines like we're about to see is Ren and 6 when you're on the draw. You know, your Ragavan is really never safe. It's not safe against Orcish Bowmasters. Ends up just not being as good, and Mark is definitely just thinking, I hope you don't have Ren to be able to ping this away. It's definitely there. Leads me to, you know, sometimes want to just dash that card whenever you're on the draw, but sometimes you just can't risk it.
Keeping it safe from sorcery speed removal with the dash ability, but no, as it is, German loses his copy of the little monkey, and Ren and 6 down as well to an unholy heat.
Yep, and Mark had that plan. If you do have the Ren, at least I can unholy heat it, and that's a great plan, but if you have second Ren and 6, it's just the absolute kind of worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's really bad, because it means that the loss of the first one isn't that bad. It already took its, it already got its value in taking care of that Ragavan, and now you've got the second one, which is, again, already got, Jiang's 2 cards up.
Exactly, and Ren's going to keep providing that value. We do see Jiang's hand is just a lot of removal spells and fetch lands, so no real action to get that creativity going for now and get Archon into play. But still the start you want from this deck, as you can just play the control style deck from the creativity side.
On the other side of things here for Marc Tobiasch, he's got the Underworld Breach, he's got the Grinding Station, he's got the Emery, so a lot of combo pieces in his hand, but he also has now, critically, a Fairy Time Raveler. At the desk, they previewed how important this card was going to be this matchup. Maybe, Corey, you've got some insight to share exactly what this Planeswalker is going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving yourself the green light to start comboing off and make sure your opponent doesn't have any kind of Leyline Binding for when you cast the Breach. Leyline Binding to be able to deal with that ends up being very strong. Decides to not go for it here. Mark is really just trying to line up the combo, which is available already. And Teferi can be good, but it's also very vulnerable, especially if there's a Ren in play. You can just ping it, you can Prismatic Ending it, you can double bolt it, a plethora of ways to deal with it.
So you say that Mark has the combo ready here. What are we looking at in terms of getting this combo started?
So getting the combo started here, you have that Mox, or you have that Bauble in the graveyard right now. So if you go Underworld Breach, you can bring back the Bauble. And with those 2 artifacts being in play, then you can play Emery, get 4 cards going. You start using Grinding Station to sacrifice the Bauble, mill 3 cards over. Eventually, you're going to find Mox Amber. Mox Amber will come back, and now every time you're bringing it back, you're adding a blue mana.
And you don't need to draw the Mox Amber, you just need it in your bin, because then you can cast that instead of the Bauble.
Exactly, and you don't even need it in your graveyard to start. You just need a 0-drop. So right now, the prerequisite amount of cards Mark needs in the graveyard is 5.
Because I sort of look at that and I'm like, well, no, he can't go off from here because he doesn't have the Mox Amber, he doesn't have, a legendary creature on the battlefield. But no, that's actually sort of secondary part of the combo.
Exactly. You do need 1 0-drop in the graveyard to be able to start this off. But yeah, that is kind of the power of the deck, is you don't really need that many pieces to start it off.
Or if you do, there's a level of redundancy, right? Even if you don't have the Mox Amber, you've got the 0-drop bauble to try to find it. All right, super interesting here. Again, like I'm looking to expand my understanding of this deck and how it works as well. So I think this is a great learning opportunity for everyone watching to understand one of the more intricate combo decks that is flying around Modern at the moment.
Yep, absolutely. A very, very tough combo deck to play. A lot of different lines. And now with that prismatic ending being fired at the grinding station, you do get to respond, sacrifice itself, and mill yourself 3 cards. That will make it so it's going to be very tough for Marc to combo here this next turn. So there's probably going to have to be a setup turn first.
Well, still got that 1 ring in hand. That's not a bad setup card. Also Teferi, you can see the Emery hanging out too, waiting for her moment to be deployed. But it will be the 1 ring, the most played card of this weekend, of course, joining us from the Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. A marquee card from that set that really is making its presence felt in the current Modern format.
Yep, absolutely. And this is kind of these really nice turns for Jeskai Breach where you're not quite ready to combo, you don't have enough resources in hand with the grinding station going away. The 1 ring really bridges that gap and allows you to draw 1 card here. You don't really mind taking a little bit of life total because this is one of the decks where you don't have to gain a lot of life like with Omnath to kind of pressure the ring from dealing with you. The way you beat your own bird encounters is by killing your opponent.
And you can also, if needs be, with a grinding station, sacrifice the ring as well. So there's there is a way to absolve yourself of those bird encounters, which is obviously very, very useful. Corey, all my entire broadcasting career has been, right, is doing a thing called playing the audience surrogate. So where I sit here and I just pretend not to understand. I ask these seemingly dumb questions about stuff that is so complicated. Really, it's all just an act. It's all an act, Corey.
Why do you ask me those questions backstage then? There's no audience.
We've got to really focus on this game here, Corey, because we've got a really a key moment here as we see the Dwarven Mike come down and make the 1-1. Renin 6 still kicking about, providing value, never missing a land drop when a Renin 6 is on the battlefield.
Exactly. Very important here. And outside of that, the hand is really bad here for Jiang. Even if you had the creativity for this turn, that's the nice thing with the 1 ring, is the Archons don't really do anything.
Teferi Time Raveler comes down, bounces the ring back to Marc's hand, which, what do you think about that? It gives him another turn to play it and give himself protection, but he's not really giving himself protection for much at this stage.
Yeah, at this point, it's kind of a time walk because, well, Marc is plenty happy taking 1 life and then drawing 2 more cards, 3 cards with your draw step. So I love that play right here. That play did very much save Jiang from losing this turn.
Righto, because it prevented Tobiasch from drawing a bunch of more cards with the ring next turn.
And the important thing is it's an extra artifact in play, which allows you to go Underworld Breach, bring back a Bauble, Artifact 2, Emery for 1 mana, and ends up being still a big thing. So once again, Marc doesn't have the combo wrapped up this turn, so he's going to start with that perfect bridge gap, the 1 ring.
All right, so the ring resolves. Flooded Strand to close out the turn here for Marc. I don't think he's got anything else he can play here. He still has that Emery in hand. Expressive Iteration is a nice one.
So one thing you want to draw is a 0-mana artifact here. Then you can play Emery. That would kind of unlock that, but doesn't hit it.
Doesn't find it. All right, so still Underworld Breach in hand for him as well as that Teferi. So Tobiasch's hand is looking very good. On the other hand, triple Lightning Bolt and 3 lands here for Jiang. So I don't think that's the position he wants to be in.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, at some point you start to get a little close where you can go bolt, 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 have Marc at an effective 7 damage or 7 life points here, 6 with the 1 ring, 5 with the fetch land. So, not absolutely far out of the range here. And actually, with the Ren emblem next turn, all those lands are also Lightning Bolt.
With Retrace, yeah, of course.
So Jiang actually has this unlocked next turn.
All right. I'm a little more interested in what's going on in Jiang's hand now. The triple bolt reminds me of the old Snapcaster Mage days. You bolt, snap, bolt them out of nowhere, dude. And now Jiang's going to do a little bit of a simulacrum of that with triple bolt and then effectively flashing them back, retracing them from the bin with all those extra lands. All right, here we go.
But we're not going to get there.
Oh.
Outside of some strange scenarios here, it doesn't look like there's any interaction for Breach itself. So we're going to start by drawing 2 cards, start by playing Breach, and you honestly don't even need to do the whole Emery play Emery and hope it lives kind of thing. You can just go 6 land. You can go Underworld Breach, bring back Grinding Station, and then just keep sacrificing a 0-drop, leave 2 islands available, and then Thassa's Oracle when you have no library.
Righto. Okay. So things look very good here for Tobiasch. The fact that he'll have that 2 mana left over once he's completed the combo here. He's milling himself with the Grinding Station.
Exactly.
And then the Thassa's Oracle into an empty library, a classic way to win a game of Magic the Gathering.
Exactly. So as long as we have land 6, that line's available. If not, you can start doing the Emery lines. You do need
what difference does the Emery make?
So with the Emery, if you can kill the Emery with, let's say, Lightning Bolt before you find Mox Amber, so the thing you want to be doing is get Mox Amber into play and then play Emery, because then even if they kill it, you add a blue, and you use that blue to cast Emery again.
Right. So
you can perpetually do that.
The important thing about the Emery is it comes in and unlocks the mana from a Mox Amber.
Yes.
Okay, I see. All right, we've got a second 1 ring. Sort of false bill of goods, the 2 ring now.
So this is interesting. Mark is trying to play around like a Leyline's Binding because he doesn't have a good answer to that specific card. And in the end, I think that's going to lead to Mark's demise here in game 1.
Wow. All right, look at this. Corey's just flipping and flopping all over the place here.
Well,
it was over for Tobiasch before. Now it's Jiang who's going to win. Oh, my goodness. All right, here's that Emery you mentioned before.
Did you play land this turn?
They're checking if Tobiasch has played a land this turn. I don't think he has.
Yep.
Because he started with 5.
Has not. So let's see. We'll probably fire off a bolt here, and then we'll see how many lands you have versus other bolts, and see if Mark can just lose in his upkeep, you know, to a bunch of bolts.
Because the hand for Jiang is triple bolt and triple land at least.
Yeah.
So that's and with a bunch of red lands in play as well, Dwarven Mines, what have you. Jiang just going to bolt him out from 14?
It's looking like it.
Let's go.
Because the one thing Mark is doing right here is like, you know what? I don't want to risk comboing off, because one Leyline Binding with this hand for Mark will disrupt it. You know, there was no kind of counter magic to get around that. So Mark's trying to play it a little bit safer and play around that specific card, but not really playing around the old that many bolts, you know, because you don't even see the bolts right now.
6 copies of the card Lightning Bolt. Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
So Jiang down to 13 here, but it's Tobiasch's live total that we're the most interested in. He is dead to Quintuple Bolt, which is not something you normally play around, Corey. You don't normally play around the 5th copy of Lightning Bolt, but here, Tobiasch might be dead to it.
It might be, yep. And as long as you have the 6 land, it was possible to combo off without needing Emery to be in play. It looks like that Flooded Strand, you know, there wasn't a land played, so we're going to see this played after Emery milled the 4.
All right, let's go. Ren and 6 emblem, upstairs with Teferi. Ren and 6 emblem, instants and sorceries in your graveyard have retrace. Discard a land, you can cast them from the bin. They don't get exiled.
They do not.
They do not get exiled once you cast them from the bin. So now let's go. Oh, dude, I'm loving this.
Okay, so that's, 3 bolts, 2 lands, 9, 12. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. In the upkeep, Lightning Bolt you. And then retrace it with a Plains. Retrace it with a Stomping Ground. Retrace it with a Scalding Tarn. Another Bolt. And now that is 6 copies of Lightning Bolt on the stack here that Tobiasch has to deal with. He's going to draw cards with
draw cards with the ring trigger on the stack.
With the ring trigger on the stack, so that's another 2 damage. And I think Marc Tobiasch has been beaten to death by 5 copies of Lightning Bolt.
Impressive stuff. Impressive stuff. And maybe, you know, we'll go back and question not going for it there, but it's kind of hard to play around that many bolts, you know? Now, naturally, you could just have 1 Lightning Bolt and then 5 lands, and that would still be that same kind of outcome, but yeah, wild game 1.
I don't think I've ever seen... I've seen a lot of bolts cast. I don't think I've ever seen 5 cast consecutively.
Exactly.
As I say, it's normally bolt, snapcaster, bolt, or it's like bolt something else, or whatever, right? But no, this was just 5 lightning bolts all targeting you, dude. I love that. That was so sick. Oh, Jiang is absolutely bringing the thunder here today. Love to see it. All right, Ragavan. Nimble Pilferer kicks things off here in game number 2. We are right back into the action, but Corey, a key card on the other side of the battlefield here for Jiang.
Oh yeah, Leyline of the Void is extremely difficult to combo through. You have different cards like Teferi, maybe Wear Tear, stuff like that to deal with it, but usually when I see Leyline of the Void, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to beat down this game. And one thing that we are going to see that's a little different this game is Mark being on the play, so Ragavan cannot get Renin sixed. So now if it's going to die, at least it's going to die to a removal spell like Lightning Bolt, and at least it's a 1-for-1.
So here's my question. You're saying that you're looking to beat down in this situation. What are you beating down with?
Urza Saga is the main thing. Yep, you get a lot of constructs going there, and then draw a bunch of cards with the One Ring. That will get you, basically you play Urza Saga as your only land drop, you know, for multiple turns in a row. But it's much tougher. You know, you do gotta go to the late game against a deck where you would prefer to combo them, you know, turn 3, turn 4, something like that.
And in terms of answers for the Leyline of the Void, which obviously comes in on turn 0, it's a pre-game action. What are we looking at for answers there?
So we're looking at 3 Wear Tears in the board. We'll see how many Mark decided to bring in. You also have the 4 Teferis, and then Prismatic Ending. It's actually still possible to do if you have Springleaf Drum, you have a Jeskai Mana Base,
or
and then that,
treasures from Lil Ragavan as well.
There we go. Yep, that helps as well. Some players have been playing Haywire Might. That is a way to deal with it as well. Not in Mark's list, though. Mark's is definitely a very much an outlier deck list compared to the other 6 players that decided to play this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to compare notes, of course, once these deck lists are all you know, poured over by all the nerds out there looking for the stats and the numbers and the facts and the figures. It'll be interesting to see where the dust settles on this modern format. Now, and here is the card you mentioned, Teferi, which bounces the Leyline of the Void. And ordinarily, right, if a Teferi comes down and bounces like a key thing, it's like, all right, okay, you've got to turn off, right? Like next turn, it's probably going to come down. You have to deal. It's just buying time. Not so with Leyline of the Void in this deck.
Yeah, it's a little trickier. It is still castable. You know, there's a Savai Triome, the Mardu Triome, there's a Blood Crypt as well. So over the course of 2 turns, you can get to that spot where you cast Leyline. But Mark will have the ability to get cards in graveyard, and at least that will, you know, help keep your graveyard count up. So even if Leyline happens, you'll still have to deal with it. But, oh, that is huge.
Boy. Oh, no, dude. Oh, land destruction is so brutal to have to deal with. And here, we are seeing this Urza Saga get taken out by a Tear Asunder.
Yep.
You hate and or love to see it, depending on how much of a villain you are, man.
And Mark did have the option of playing Urza Saga that turn or playing a fetch land and going for Urza Saga on turn 4 into the One Ring, because then that kind of a play doesn't really affect you as much. They can still get you with the Chapter 1 on the stack, but decided to get that going to maybe get a little bit more aggressive.
Tear Asunder, obviously a really popular, I guess, or really, maybe not popular, but really effective disenchant effect at the moment, given that it says exile target artifact or enchantment.
Exactly. Being able to hit Urza Saga or the Ring or Underworld Breach, just a phenomenal card against Mark's deck.
And then if you ever get to 4 mana with the Kicker ability, I don't know how often that's coming up, but you can just exile anything, which is obviously very, very useful indeed. But we've seen cards like Haywire Might, other cards that have an exile clause attached to something that destroys an artifact, be really important in a world dominated by the One Ring, which is, of course, indestructible.
Yep, absolutely. And Mark playing 3 copies of that. Basically, any kind of exile disenchant effect is excellent against this deck.
Because I think you shuffle anyway, so...
So Renin 6 still on the battlefield here. We saw that effectively win the game for Jiang last turn, in game number 1. Tobiasch, though, his hand looks all right, actually. He's got the One Ring. He's got a Wear Tear in case there's further disruption, in case we see that Leyline come back down.
Yep.
And I believe that is the Mardu colored Triumph that's been played now for Jiang, the Raugrin,
I believe that's the Jeskai one.
Is that the
Yep.
Okay, that is the Raugrin Triumph. All right.
Yeah, no counter spell for the One Ring, so at least Mark would get a little bit of value out of playing the Ring, but Leyline Binding to be able to take out the One Ring is going to be quite effective. Not the best card to have under Leyline's Binding because you can just deal with it at some point, and then getting the Ring back at instant speed really negates the effectiveness of Archon of Cruelty.
Okie dokes. Let's see what's next on the agenda here. Leyline of the Void, not an option, because that is indeed a Raugrin Triome.
Yep.
So back to what's Tobiasch searching out here? A basic mountain?
Yep, basic mountain. Marc is playing 2 basic islands, 1 basic mountain, really trying to minimize the amount of damage that Marc's lands deal to himself because, well, you got to save that life for the One Ring burden counters.
Yeah, those burden counters really stack up. And now the One Ring, the turn 4 play here for Tobiasch.
And now there's kind of this weird little decision where most of the time you want to activate the One Ring right away in case you draw a bobble. And then you can get that extra value by playing it during your turn. But if you go to activate it, your opponent can respond by getting rid of it, and then you don't draw the card.
So is this a Prismari command here?
Looks like it. Probably treasure and loot. And now the One Ring does trigger for protection, so Marc is safe for now from Archon of Cruelty, Creativity, Shenanigans.
We were talking about how the creativity deck, which was really at the forefront of the modern format before Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, it's taken a bit of a hit. The fact that your opponent plays the One Ring and all of a sudden Archon of Cruelty is just a 6/6. It does make a big difference.
It really does. Yeah, this was kind of the thing that put creativity from what most people widely thought of as the best deck in Modern down to, just a solid another tier 1 option here. The One Ring definitely having the biggest impact on creativity.
It has been interesting to see the way that the format has shifted. Stone Cold powerhouses like Ragavan being taken down a notch. Decks that were dominating the format like Creativity, again, being checked. And, it's interesting that we see the utter dominance of cards like the One Ring. We see Orcish Bowmasters all over the place. Delighted Halfling putting in the work. Next week, I wouldn't be surprised to see things looking very different as this data is crunched up and people figure out, well, now we need this angle of attack. We can beat Orcish Bowmasters in this way. We need to make sure we've got answers to Delighted Halfling. How can we mitigate the advantage that people get from the One Ring?
Yep, absolutely. The One Ring really did the worst damage to Creativity and Hammer, and then Orcish Bowmaster did a huge number to Murktide, which was another deck that was incredibly popular, but Dragon Rage Channeler, Ragavan, they don't like seeing Orcish Bowmasters.
Really important to note as well that the Murktide deck basically gained nothing from the new set.
Yeah,
right. Like
pretty much.
It's not a the One Ring deck.
Yeah,
certainly not. And we haven't seen it really capitalize on the new set in any way.
Yeah, Lauren's revealed maybe as a little slight upgrade for them, but yeah, I totally agree. Not much to be gained.
Yeah, we've seen cards like Lorien Revealed and the other basic land cyclers, sorry, not basic land cyclers, the basic land type cyclers have a bit of an impact. But right now, these players slowing things down a little bit as they carefully consider what their next moves are here. Tobiasch has played and activated the One Ring, drawn a card off it. You can see that one burden counter hanging out there. And on the other side of things, Jiang now looking to play a Teferi card that we identified early on. The desk team, Marnie, pointed out just how important Teferi is in this matchup.
Yep, absolutely. And the big choice here from Jiang was whether or not to play Teferi or just jam Leyline of the Void once again. So decides to mitigate the damage that the One Ring is going to cause instead of trying to stop the combo for next turn. And we'll see if that will be regretted or not if Marc does indeed have the combo. And Fable. Okay, so if I was Marc, I'd be like, okay, let's see if I can combo here.
Yeah, the shields are kind of down somewhat.
Worst draw in the deck, drawing Thassa's Oracle. You never want to touch that one.
Nice, yep. Always wanted that one in the bin. So an unfortunate draw here for the German.
Yep, not looking like anywhere near enough for the combo pieces. You have Breach, no Grinding Station, no Zero Drop as well. Marc does play one less Zero Drop from kind of the stock lists of this, with only 2 Mox Hammers. But with less Ragavans, that makes a lot of sense to trim on that numbers. Also only plays 3 Urza's Saga, where 4 is kind of the more traditional as well. So you can tell Marc put a lot of effort and thought into this deck, and he is so great at these kind of style of really, tough-to-play combo decks throughout his career.
Yeah, there's some numbers in here that at first blush really raise some questions. 1 Lightning Bolt, 1 Pyrite Spellbomb, 2 Spell Pierce.
I need to stop you with the 1 Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Just in case you lose Thassa's Oracle, you can go Underworld Breach, bolt, 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 bolt.
Oh, you can do what's known in the business as the Yiren Jiang.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep. That is exactly what you can do.
So that's why there's just the one lightning bolt.
Yeah, just in case, and honestly, just another removal spell that fits the mold of Unholy Heat to be able to, like I like to call passing the Ragavan test. Whenever your opponent's going to play a powerful one-drop like that, you want to make sure you still have ways to deal with it.
Where Tear takes out the Fable of the Mirror Breaker here before it can advance to its second chapter, but the Goblin is still hanging out, making treasure.
Yep. Attacks for 0, but gets the treasure in thanks to protection from the One Ring.
There's been some sick anti-the One Ring tech. Have you seen the questing beasts?
I have. I mean, Kai's playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. A lot of Rhinos players are leaning on Questing Beast as that way to get around protection. Bone Crusher Giant as well, another option.
Questy B, I imagine most of the teams who played it, most of their testing time was probably taken up with just reading all the text on the card.
Yeah. Rumor has it they're still reading.
Still reading to this very day, Corey. To this very day, dude. They're still reading it.
Yep.
And it's interesting to see that Jiang really hasn't been going after the combo, right? He hasn't found the creativity. It doesn't seem like, is it still his plan A here?
Plan A is usually maintain your opponent's combo and then assemble one of these sweet turns where you can have a Teferi in play and at your opponent's end step creativity.
Okay.
And then you get the Archon triggers and then you're just dead straight away. And that's got to be something that Marc has to have in mind right now because it is something that would be devastating next turn without Marc having any way to do anything about it. You need an Unholy Heat to clear Teferi away, and then you have to have some counter magic for it. Not an easy task because there is, not a lot of spell pierces from Marc. Oh wait, no, excuse me, there are 4 of them still. 2 main, 2 side.
I don't think he has Delirium.
Yep.
Instant land source. No, instant land sorcery planeswalker. No, he's good.
And it's only at 2 for now, so it can still deal with it as it stands.
All right, Leyline of the Void.
Okay.
Leyline of the Void, cast off of the Savai Triome and the treasure token from the Goblin. And now a Leyline Binding.
Okay.
You have everything right? Yeah, I have
Leyline Binding on the One Ring. Marc has to be just overjoyed about this turn from Jiang because you just have, I believe, 2 wear tears. Maybe there was a third. Okay, just 1 in hand, already cast the second, but can always go Underworld Breach, wear tear from the yard as well if you need to start the combo. So more than likely we're going to see starting this turn off by wear tearing the Leyline Binding, get the One Ring back, draw a card, and go from there.
All right, my friends around the world at home. This is very much not the sort of thing you do when broadcasting, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to test Corey's expertise, see how well he really does know the deck. Corey.
Perfect.
Can you fuse a wear tear from the bin with an Underworld Breach?
You cannot.
You cannot.
You cannot.
You cannot.
Yeah.
All right.
That's correct, right?
I don't know. I've got no idea, man.
I'm pretty sure you can't, because there's, I'm actually not 100%
well,
sure.
The reminder text of it says you may cast
from
one
your
of,
hand,
yeah,
so no, you
may
cannot.
cast one or both of these halves of this card from your hand.
Yeah, things you can't do with Breach, like you can't dash Ragavan, you can't bring Fury back and evoke a card from your hand, so
any alternate casting cost. It's basically just like whatever's in the top right-hand corner of the card, that's what you can
Exactly,
right.
yeah.
This one exile.
Well done, dude. You did it.
I kind of failed there, but
you did a great job. You did
Okay.
a great job, man. I broke one of the rules of broadcasting to bring that special piece of content to the viewers.
You really did. I'm
crushed
proud
it,
of
man.
you.
You crushed it.
I'll be hitting you with some of those
Look,
questions later
we got a
on.
rules tear. We got a judge call about wear tear here.
Oh, and honestly, this is a rules that comes up very often. When you deal with a card like Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, Dothy Voidwalker,
Yes.
does the card you're targeting with it go to the graveyard or exile is usually the question.
Yes, and I don't think it does.
Yeah, I don't think it does either.
No.
But it looks like it does.
Okay, well, there you go.
Because some of them are different, like with Dothy Voidwalker, with Rest in Peace, they're all kind of templated a little bit differently.
Right, so it depends on the templating, because I'm pretty sure I've cast Abrupt Decay on a Rest in Peace and had the Abrupt Decay in my bin.
Yeah, that's one of those scenarios we were talking about. Don't be afraid to call judges.
Call a judge.
We call judges
Just
all the
call a
time
judge.
when I run into these, just to be certain.
Yep.
Timing, you played that tapped after playing that, right?
I fetched this untapped and played this targeting this.
So you can see a judge intervening here to make sure that both players are on the same page about things, and that's their job. That's their job, and they do it very well.
Exactly. So now Teferi is dealt with. So Marc has insulated himself from the creativity line where Archon would assuredly kind of finish him off with just making Marc discard basically his whole hand by dealing with Teferi. So, the only way you would be able to creativity Marc at this point is with Teferi plus creativity. And we do have the prerequisite amount of lands to do that, but you do need both of those cards now.
Renin 6 now up to 7 loyalty. We saw the Renin 6 emblem winning the game for Jiang in game number 1.
Yep.
And he's poised to do it again here. Get the emblem, that is. I don't know if he's going to win with it. But another treasure token now from the Goblin. And you know what I'd love to see? How about a hardcast Archon?
There we go.
How about a hardcast Archon?
I mean, it's not a bad play at all. Now, from the Jeskai Breach deck, there's so many great answers to it. As it's a 6/6, you have 4 1-mana ways to deal with it with Unholy Heat, as well as Teferis, and as well as Breaches, because you can get back the cards that are already in the graveyard. So it's not the worst when the ability itself doesn't do anything thanks to the One Ring.
You get your little sort of cruel ultimatum type effect, don't you?
Yeah.
It's not quite a cruel ultimatum. It's like an unkind ultimatum.
Unkind, yes.
Moderately
a downgrade.
A moderately nasty ultimatum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moderate inconvenience ultimatum.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, oh, this is a bit of a bother for me.
Exactly. So right now, Marc does not know it, but all systems are a go if you're able to find the combo here. There's still no 0-drop, and there's still no grinding station at the moment, so we do need a little bit of help. But this is a nice play from Marc here, playing Teferi to start this off, to just protect against drawing 2 cards here, having Leyline Binding in response.
So Teferi comes down. We're going to draw a couple of cards with the ring here. And it's a Mishra's Bauble, and is that a Spell Pierce? Yeah.
That's a Spell Pierce, yep. So now there is at least the 0-drop. Still need the grinding station itself.
Tobiasch has a look at his own library here.
And here might be one of those turns, especially with having 2 Underworld Breaches, where you fire off what I like to call just a value breach. You cast Breach, bobble, bobble, bobble. Next turn, draw 4 cards, kind of go off from there, and then hope your hand is supercharged for the following turn.
Even if you don't have the grinding station or whatever, maybe you'll draw into it.
Exactly. So something we'll see, because Marc's hand is pretty bad so far. And one thing Marc can do as well is Underworld Breach and just start firing off Unholy Heats at Ren to make sure that doesn't emblem, because I believe that card in the graveyard from Jiang is a Lightning Bolt, because that was cast right on Ragavan on turn 1, I believe. That looks like a Lightning Bolt art there in the graveyard.
Just
I could
hanging
be
out
wrong.
right in the corner there. So we do see the breach now. The important thing that a lot of people forget about Underworld Breach is that it does have a second piece of rules text at the end of the end step. Sacrifice Underworld Breach. Doesn't come up very often, because often the turn that you cast the Underworld Breach, you win the game.
Exactly.
But that's what you're talking about, a value breach, right? You can't just play it and be like, oh, I'll get around to it next turn. You've got to get your value from it while you can.
Exactly. So if you have 2 of them, it's plenty fine to get rid of it, because, well, you can have a virtual empty graveyard. You can just have like 2 cards in there.
Yep.
When you draw so many cards, like, Marc would bobble, draw 3 cards here, untap, draw a card, and then the One Ring draws 3 more. So Marc effectively is drawing 7 cards. You're going to find some more artifacts and ways to fill up your graveyard.
I don't know too much about Magic the Gathering. I've only been casting it professionally for, a decade or so, but I do understand that drawing 7 cards in a single turn, Corey, or in a couple of turns, tends to be pretty good.
Pretty good, yep.
Very good.
You've nailed that, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just did 11 minus 3 is 9.
So we'll see what Marc goes for here. A lot of different lines. I think step 1, you gotta at least put Ren down to 1. It's unfortunate that it's at 7 instead of 6. And then you can also Wear Tear Fable to prevent some draws, because you can kind of have a read that Jiang's hand is not that powerful as of now.
Well, just like Corey said, we're going to see the Unholy Heat on the Renin 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker, because Delirium is, of course, still active.
Yep. And a reminder that Teferi is also still unactive right now. So one thing Marc could do if he really wants to protect himself is bounce that Leyline Binding and get the One Ring if you're really afraid of creativity.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Give himself another turn of protection.
Exactly. Decides it's not worth it.
Just use it as essentially destroy target token, draw a card.
Could also Wear Tear, doing the same line for Leyline Binding from the yard. And we see we're tapping either red or white, so Probably something like that going on. Probably deciding whether to wear tear the Fable or deal with a creature.
Just going after the other goblin here with another copy of Unholy Heat being put on the stack.
Yep.
So that goblin goes away. So again, the value breach. This is what you talked about. We didn't see a ton of cards drawn with Mishra's Bauble. We may see that right now, or just one card at least. But at least a turn that brought the battlefield back under control here.
Yeah. Yep, but as it stands, I think Jiang is going to pick this up next turn. You can go end step, fetch the land, get a Dwarven Mine, that's 2 power, and then you can Ren negative at Marc, that's putting Marc down to 5. You can hard cast Archon, which puts Marc down to 2. The ring will finish him off in the upkeep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, that's a pretty incredible line if that's what Jiang has spotted. That isn't anything. No, there's nothing Marc can do about it. Even with the Spell Pierce in hand, he's tapped out. He doesn't have any free spells as far as I can see.
Yeah, I don't see anything you can draw during your upkeep to try to find some way to gain some life. Doesn't look like Marc is playing anything along that line. So I think this is Jiang wrapping this up for 2-0.
And doing it, if he takes this line that you've spotted, Corey, doing it in ways that are very fancy indeed.
Yeah, no creativity.
No.
But Archon finishing Marc off is pretty creative.
It's five color fancy plays. 5-color spicy wins here with Yiren Jiang.
And then I think to add extra insult to injury, creativity here is really going to close the door.
There was the second chapter of the Fable that just procced as well. So discard 2, draw 2.
And I want to see we
he
drew
found,
2.
yeah, he did. And
but we did discard. Right? Yeah.
No, he did. He found the creativity. Found the creativity. So in come the dwarves. No? Yes? Maybe?
Yeah, and maybe trying to think about playing around Force of Negation. Marc is not playing any of those in his list, so it's really face up. Marc cannot have anything from this spot.
This is an open deck list tournament, right? Jiang has access to, or had access to Tobiash's list. He knows that he doesn't have to play around Force. Hard cast Archon, dude. Hard cast Archon, just like the prophets foretold. The prophecy is true. Down it comes. The little cruel ultimatum is active. Tobiasch is down to 5. The dwarves come across for 2. And then the round 6 ping for 2, and the 2 burden counters on the 1 ring. Marc Tobiasch, unless he can, I don't know, flash in another copy of the 1 ring in his upkeep. I don't even think that works here.
Yep.
He is going to die to these 1 ring triggers. Yiren Jiang putting on a clinic for us. What an entertaining match of Magic we just saw, Corey.
Yeah, that was a really sweet way to win that, especially game 1 with just bolt, 6 bolts on the stack. Be like, well, I know you don't have anything that is going to interact with that. Spell Pierce wasn't interacting, and now winning this game with a really unconventional way. Doesn't need creativity, just hardcast the Archon. Easy.
Yeah, the creativity that we saw there was the way that Jiang found to win those games. So well done, an incredible performance from him, but also Marc Tobiasch showcasing a deck I know that you still obviously a very big fan of. We didn't really get to see it do its thing, but you're still quite high on this deck, Corey.
Yeah, definitely high on the deck. It's my favorite deck, but of course, by no means the best deck in the format. Just another one of those tier 1 strategies that people can play. If you really like those style of combo decks, maybe the Matt Nass special kind of combo, maybe a little KCI remnants of it. Just a fine combo deck to play.
All right, well, we've got plenty more Magic coming your way here from Pro Tour of the Lord of the Rings from Barcelona, Spain. And look at this, some familiar faces, some all-stars coming the way of the feature match area after this short break. So stay with us, everyone. We'll be back live from Barcelona in just a few minutes. Coverage of Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings continues here from Barcelona, Spain. It's my great pleasure to welcome you back to our feature match area. Riley Knight's my name, joined by Corey Baumeister, and we have been having a great time exploring this modern format in the wake of The Lord of the Rings Tales from Middle-earth, a set that has had a significant impact on the modern format. We saw in the last match there, the One Ring being decisive. Not in the way that Marc Tobiasch was hoping, as the burden proved a little too much for him. But Corey, we've got another very exciting match to jump into here with some names that I know that people around the world will be very, very happy to see showcased here. Kassis facing off against Shuhei Nakamura. We're going to jump into game number 2 here. You can see Shuhei Nakamura, massive name in Magic. This bloke has been everywhere, he's done it all, and with 6 top finishes, no stranger to success at the highest level. But Kassis as well, a friend of yours, someone who more recently has been doing incredible things in competitive Magic.
He's definitely the best Magic player I know personally, and Shuhei, no exception as well. These players are phenomenal. And we got Shuhei playing the go-to deck here. We got Rakdos Evoke up against the Samwise Gamgee combo. Which is really awesome. There's a lot of players on this super team of Team CFB that are playing this style of deck. Definitely a Sam Party creation. Exactly the kind of deck that he likes to play. I think this deck is really cool and not something we've seen in the modern metagame so far. A relatively new deck, at least with some of the new inclusions that the team has created.
Well, I want to let's talk through it here as we iron out our next feature match between these two players here. It's playing a brand new card. It was playing a couple of brand new cards. It's playing Delighted Halfling. It's playing Orcish Bowmasters, but no thanks. We are all now looking at Samwise Gamgee. Let's have a chat about this card. 2-mana 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token. It's got some other rules text. Sacrifice 3 foods, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. That's not relevant because, Corey, it combos with another one of the usual suspects from constructed formats of old.
Everybody's favorite little cat, Cauldron Familiar with Samwise Gamgee. You're creating that food, so every time you play Cauldron Familiar, you create that food, and then you have a card like Vizier Seer or Woe Strider to sacrifice the cat, use that food that you created, bring back Cauldron Familiar, drain one, and then create a food. That is just a loop in itself. It actually combos through the One Ring's protection as well, because it's loss of life.
It's life loss and not targeted damage. So this is a neat little combo. All you need is the Samwise Gamgee, you need a copy of Cauldron Familiar, and you need a sacrifice outlet. And as Corey said, Viscera Seer is a very common choice for that, given that it costs 1 mana, and it's a 0 mana sacrifice outlet. You don't have to, and we've seen Viscera Seer, right? We've seen Kitchen Things decks, we've seen all sorts of combo, Malira, Vizier, whatever. But it's back again.
Absolutely. Back and in a new cool combo deck. You also just get to play really powerful cards like Orcish Bowmaster and Collected Companies, a card that we have definitely seen a lot of and talked a lot about in our careers, as casters, and has been played a ton. But now you can get some really awesome, spicy hits where you can get Grist. It is a creature when you collect a company, Ranger Captain of Eos, and that card is just phenomenal in this deck. Not only going to get yourself combo pieces, but can protect your combo as well, not allowing spells to be cast.
So this was a pretty sick turn here for Ely. We saw him play an Orcish Bowmasters. Shuhei responded with a Bowmasters of his own to kill Ely's Bowmasters, but then Ely was like, well, I'll do you one better. And he's got another Orcish Bowmasters, which pumped the Orc army as Nakamura blocked with his Orc army, which is a 1/1. And so when the dust settles, it's certainly Kassis now well out ahead. Haywire Might, Orcish Bowmasters, a 2/2 Orc army. Things looking very good for him.
Very good. That is a great start. And I believe I do see land number 4 for Ely. And then Yawgmoth, but a little problem in that mana base as it's a Temple Garden in hand. So it looks like, unless a Black Source was top decked, unable to actually cast this. Never mind.
Now the Overgrown Tomb, easy peasy Albanese, and so we're going to see Yawgmoth, the Thran Physician, come down. And does this open up other combo elements to this deck, or is this more of a value card?
There's no Young Wolves, there's no Stranglegeist, those kind of elements to really go off with Yawgmoth. It's a value card, but it is also just another free sack outlet. If you need that. You don't, gain infinite life there, but you still deal or loss of life infinite with Cauldron Familiar, Samwise Gamgee. So still does the same thing.
That's
as
right,
that.
because the Cauldron Familiar will gain life to offset the life you're paying to the Yawgmoth, so you can still go.
Exactly.
Still go.
Yep.
Right, while drawing a bunch of cards. Terminate now, targeting Yawgmoth. Looks like the Haywire Might is going to be cashed in here.
Actually gains a life here instead of the lose a life, since Haywire Might goes to the yard and does that. Looks like Ely is plenty fine just cashing in some of these 1/1s, recognizing it's more important to draw something like Collected Company than try to get this chip shot damage in against Rakdos Evoke.
Yeah, especially as you know that you're losing the Yawgmoth. You're not going to be able to set up anything sort of too fancy with that in the coming turn. So you may as well just get your value while you can. Cash in these small creatures, which may be made very irrelevant. Single Fury would have just absolutely removed that entire board.
Exactly.
And so now the Terminate having resolved, Ely is sort of back to the drawing board.
Yeah, as it stands, that was probably the best Terminate in the history of Modern Magic here, as it cleared off 4 creatures.
Yeah. I thought it was just destroy target creature, not Supreme Verdict. Dude.
Back in the day, of course. But
Back in the day.
Yep.
How much Modern has changed, my friends. It is not the format that we once knew, but we're still having a ton of fun with it. And it is great to have your company exploring this new Modern format. Seasoned Pyromancer in the hand of the Japanese Hall of Famer here. This card, obviously an absolute house. Love casting this on an empty hand when it is essentially just a Mull Drifter. Draws you 2 cards. But here now we're going to see Feign Death and Grief discarded.
pretty interesting here. We saw Shuhei have 3 cards, and one of them was Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle did not go to the graveyard, so that's kept in hand. The one thing about the way that Ely Kassis' team has built this deck, one Pithing Needle does not stop Vizier, Seer, Woe Strider, and Yawgmoth. So, you know, not the most effective tool for it. So that was kind of strange to me to leave that one.
We sort of bigged up the fact that the Viscera Seer is the card that is, you know, usually picked as the sacrifice outlet.
Sack
right?
outlet of choice, for sure.
It's the easiest card to get with Court of Calling. It's nice and cheap. It's easy to get out there. But you're right in saying Woe Strider, another free sacrifice. Free in the sense, not that it's free to cast, but it's free to activate its ability. And then again, no mana used to activate Yawgmoth as well. So the Pithing Needle not as surgical as it would be otherwise.
And I mean, I don't want to say unplayable because it'll definitely do things, but it is relatively close to that. That is Samwise Gamgee there.
Samwise Gamgee, and there's the Woe Strider.
Okay, so we got that. Now you're still just missing the cat. Now there is only 2 of this card.
Okay.
You know, so it is not necessarily a card you top deck on its own very well, but if you think about it, there's kind of 10 ways to draw it as you do, excuse me, there's 14. You have Ranger, Captain of Eos, Court of Calling, the 2 Cauldron Familiars, and then 4 Collected Companies that help get it as well. So this whole deck kind of circles back to itself and is just a really fine, efficient toolbox deck.
All right, it looks like we're going to see Fury here cast by Shuhei Nakamura. He's considering it, but while he hits the tank on this one, I want to come back to the card you mentioned, Ranger, Captain of Eos.
Yes.
I was talking to LSV about this card and its role in the deck as we see Fury evoked here to take care of most of the creatures on this battlefield. This is a card that attacks the format, not just decks, the format on so many angles, right?
Yes.
The activated ability, sacrifice Ranger, Captain of Eos, your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Living End.
Yeah.
Crashing Footfalls. There are so many other decks and cards that Ranger Captain just absolutely hoses.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, what Riley means by that is you can leave that in play. Your opponent can cast Shardless Agent, Violent Outburst, and you're like, yes, that's fine, so you don't have to sack it preemptively on their turn. You wait till they cast that, and then you sacrifice it. The Cascade cannot come on the stack. So, yeah, incredibly versatile when it comes to that.
But then also from I guess, a defensive standpoint, you can play a Ranger Captain of Eos, sacrifice it in your upkeep or whatever, and then just go off knowing that you're not going to be taken apart by counterspells.
Yeah, totally agree, but wow.
Although, doesn't stop Solitude. But continue, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, this is a huge attack here. We had the Fury plus Undying Malice to just completely deal and decimate Ely Kassis' board, and now this is just a gigantic attack, putting Ely to the test here and hoping to find something to maybe just survive. It looks like we're getting Woe Strider to get that 0-1 GOAT token to maybe just jump in front of Fury and, you know, hope it lives. But if Shuhei does have the ability of clearing out these 2 blockers, this game's just over. And match.
Yeah, the Fury here was a huge play. The fact that there was the Undying Malice to bring it back. So Woe Strider which was just escaped, correct?
Yep, escape, so it does get those 2+1/+1 counters, as well as still comes with the goat.
All right, Doughty Voidwalker, and in comes the Fury. Now, doesn't have trample. It's got double strike, doesn't have trample here, so we're going to see that poor goat. That poor goat, dude.
Yeah, and this is a matchup. I was talking to Ely at the player party here yesterday, and he was like, this is our one bad matchup. And, the metagame was out by then. I was like, well, that's, a little unfortunate. But he's like 20%. That means you'll play it 2 times out of your 10 rounds. And he's like, we're probably 40% to play against it. I hope to go 1-1. It was his quote. And,
right.
In a rough spot here. And I believe Shuhei even mulled to 5 this game, too. So really showcasing maybe the difficulty of this matchup, especially Fury and one of the undying ways to bring it back.
The fact that it's just so, I don't want to say vulnerable, but it does get hit by hand disruption, by creature disruption. Both these disruptive elements are very effective against the Samwise Gamgee combo deck.
And even Doughty right now, that Doughty takes care of the combo. You can't Cauldron Familiar it back. So
just get exiled with a Void counter.
Now, one thing we are going to see that extra text that we kind of glossed over with Samwise Gamgee, the sacrifice 3 food, which are in play, you can return target historic card from your graveyard. This is, artifact, legendary, things of that matter. So you can bring back Haywire Might. It's okay, but yeah, we need this to be a good collected company.
We need a good collected company here for Ely Kassis if he's going to stay in this. This Fury is certainly living up to its name. Shuhei Nakamura turning the screws on Ely Kassis.
And now if we do hit, okay, Cauldron Familiar plus Vizier Seer. Let's see. So you get food. I believe this is it. I believe Ely's got this. So you go up to 5 food. You sack 3 to get Haywire Might back. Oh, no. Sorry. The Voidwalker is the problem card, not the Pithing Needle.
The Pithing Needle's not doing a whole lot at this stage, but that Voidwalker is preventing this combo from going off. So our Neon Dynasty champion winner here, with his back against the wall.
Well, something you can get back is Yawgmoth to then sack 2 creatures. Like if Ely goes to get Yawgmoth back right now, then you can block something with Fury. You could sack to put counters on Doughty Voidwalker. Decides to not go for that.
So the Gilded Goose is exiled with a Void counter on it. It's unlikely that Nakamura is going to cash it in for the Goose. 1 card in hand here.
Okay, now we're going for Yawgmoth. I was wondering if I'm missing something if this does not allow the combo. Okay, of course. It puts it into your hand, not into play.
Yes, yeah.
That would be pretty good.
That would be an extremely potent magic card, yes, for 2 mana. Especially with how easily, how abundant it is with making food. All right, so Orcish Bowmasters.
Yep, it's going to deal 1 damage to Doughty and then sack that army immediately to Yawgmoth. Put another negative counter on Doughty Voidwalker.
Very good.
Kill you in your upkeep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so removing the, putting a -1/-1 counter on the Yawgmoth, from the Yawgmoth onto the 3/2 Doughty Voidwalker meant that because of the damage that had been done by the Orcish Bowmasters, he was able to get across the line. We didn't see him go off, but from there it's largely academic.
Exactly.
Talk us through how that game would then have progressed with the Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah, just with the Cauldron Familiar, then you sack Cauldron Familiar to Woe Strider, goes to the graveyard, you sack one of those food, Cauldron Familiar comes back, you then, Samwise Gamgee puts a food into play since it came into play, rinse and repeat until there's no life total from Shuhei. So a big game number 3 here on these players' hands, because the big difference, 5-1 versus 4-2. Really big spot with 2 rounds left to go.
Yeah, both of these players will be looking to defend their records as best as possible here. Doughty Voidwalker on turn 2, exactly where you want to be against this deck. A nice disruptive element that also provides a clock when needs be. Delighted Halfling on the other side. Are we going to see a Grist on turn 2?
I think that looks to be what it is, and not only that. Okay,
no, it's
Ranger
the Ranger Captain. It's the Ranger Captain of EOS. This is the card that we mentioned before. A fantastic card, a sort of callback to the Ranger of EOS, which goes and gets 2 1-drops, but this time we're just getting 1 with the Ranger Captain.
Oh man, I played a lot of that Ranger Captain of EOS. Get the 2 1-drops. Woo! Yeah. That was a fun one.
Ranger of EOS. That I believe that was an invitational card as well.
I am not sure about that.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
So there is no card to search up to deal with Dathi Voidwalker. One of the really interesting targets that Eli Kassis has is a giant killer in the board to be able to search up a way to kill, well, bigger creatures, but the 3 power does not allow for that. Decides to get Haywire Might to preemptively deal with some tricky artifacts or enchantments.
Invitational card from 2006.
You were right.
With Antoine Ruel on it,
Okay.
of course.
Gotcha.
Yes, yes, yes. These days, of course, we see high-profile Magic champions on cards after they've won a World Championship.
Exactly.
But way back in the olden days, there was the Invitational that gave players the chance to get their faces on a card.
Yeah, Eli was so close this year, taking
was so
second
close.
to Nathan Stoyer.
So close.
What a fun thing to be a part of there, for
Interesting
sure.
to see what Stoyer's card ends up looking like. We've had some crackers recently.
Oh, yeah.
Had some really good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Fervent Champion. Paolo's card, the
Elite Spellbinder.
Elite Spellbinder. Yeah.
Fairy Mastermind. from
Fairy
Yuta.
Mastermind.
Yep.
Yep. They've all been good, man. And you would hate to get a stinker.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what's your card? Oh, it's a 5-mana 2/2.
Yeah,
What
drop-
does it do?
I got Colossal Dreadmaw, you know?
I'd love that, actually. No. I'd 100% take that, yeah. 6-mana 6/6 trample, just with me going like this. Big thumbs up. Love that. Oh,
Honestly,
dude, I'd be all
great.
about it. All right. We've got a Seasoned Pyromancer now, discarding Grief, and that looks to me to be a Swamp as well.
Yep.
So only one Elemental now for Seasoned Pyro. And in comes the Dathi Voidwalker, effectively unblockable.
Yeah, not
With Shadow?
Yeah, maybe other Dathis can block it.
Yeah.
That's about it. But yeah, we'll see. Now Eli is really looking for that Collected Company. You know, Delighted Halfling is able to have that uncounterable amount of mana here to make your creatures uncounterable. Can still just tap for colorless to be able to cast things like Collected Company.
Such a good card. It's been a long time since we got a mana dork that's really changed the game.
Yeah.
And really pleased with Delighted Halfling. Teferi on turn 2, Omnath on turn 3. I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, and I
don't
mean,
think my opponents have, but I have been.
Probably not, yeah. I mean, the main thing is the 2 toughness. These mana creatures, Land of World, Birds, Noble Hierarchs, all the Ignoble Hierarch, all these things are a lot rougher in the face of Ren, Orcish Bowmasters, and Furies.
Alrighty, well, we've got another new card here from the Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. This is Boromir, Warden of the Tower. You can see it on your screen now. Let's remind ourselves of what it does. 3-mana 3/3 Vigilance. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Now, Corey, in a format filled with free spells, is that a good ability?
I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure is. And the other ability to just sacrifice it to give your creatures indestructible ends up being very strong as well. Really amazing and limited, for
Yes.
sure, if we see that in the draft tomorrow.
But also getting it done here in Constructed now with a Thoughtseize.
Oof.
Taking out Orcish Bowmasters. It's going to be exiled with a Void counter on it, same as that Ranger Captain was.
Yep, and Eli's hand, not great. Similar to watching Mark play Jeskai Breach earlier, you never really want to draw Thassa's Oracle. It's the same with never wanting to draw a Cauldron Familiar. You know, like, it's fine to get it when you have the combo, but otherwise it's a very low-impact card.
Yeah, that's putting it diplomatically.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's a real stinker. It's a real stinker. Yeah, no, it's not the sort of card you want in your hands. Particularly, you don't want 2 copies here if you're not ready to kind of go off. In comes the Dathi Voidwalker once again with Shadow. It's not going to get blocked by anything that's on the battlefield right now.
Yep, and you do have the option if you want to sack Dathi Voidwalker. Now, timing rules do apply, which means you cannot instant speed out creatures. But, you know, Shuhei did have the option of playing Ranger Captain, getting something like that. Search up a Regavan, kind of cute, but...
All right. Terminates on the Boromir. It's going to be exiled with a Void counter as well.
Yep, looks like at upkeep, and the ring is tempting. Not necessarily relevant things that are going to be happening, but...
Well, you never know. Look, we're bringing out all the equipment here for the ring, the stuff that we'd sort of tucked away because we thought limited. Well, that's it. We're done with that. But no, back it comes, and the Delighted Halfling picks up the 1 ring.
By the way, shout out to everyone on the team for these awesome giant, the 1 ring things, as well as the actual ring. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It's a very cool way to. Did you see like LSV tweeted? He was going to bring his Hall of Fame ring in order to indicate. What a power move!
That is a flex.
What a power move! Oh, this card here is my ring bearer, the one with the Hall of. Oh, whose Hall of Fame ring is that?
Which
that's
ring?
Mine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my one. Did you bring your? Oh, you don't. Oh, you don't have one. Sorry.
Unless he plays against Seth, because Seth also brought the Hall of Fame ring. Yeah.
The 2 of them just flexing against each other. Oh dear. Alrighty. What's next on the docket for these two players here? This Doughty Voidwalker has exiled 3 creatures there. Anything that you're wanting to cast at the moment from that? The Orcish Bowmasters?
No, everything you want with the Void. The Voidwalker is the best card out of all of these 4, just because it shuts down the combo.
For sure.
And, oh, well, is that a certain 4-drop? Oh, it was one of those situations. I'll just, I don't have anything to play. It's your turn, I guess.
Yeah.
But, oh, I guess you have something to play.
Yeah.
Collected Company off the top for Ely is going to be an excellent end-step play to maybe leverage his position here.
Yep, unless we get the big whiffaroonie here for Ely, we're going to see Collected Company, exile with a Void counter, and 6 cards off the top, 6 of the best. Let's see what our World Championship runner-up can find.
All right, that's 2 cards. That's huge.
That's what you want. And it's Grist, and it's Ranger Captain of Eos, the full 6 mana. Full value here. Talk us through this. What are we seeing as a result of this, Corey?
So what we're going to see is Grist coming into play, and everyone's going to say, well, that's a Planeswalker. Well, read that little bit of text. You're able to collect a company for it. Ranger can go get a plethora of things, but Vizier Seer kind of stands out to me. And now all you need is Samwise Gamgee, and then the combo is ready, even through this Dauthi Voidwalker.
So we're throwing massive shade at those cats in hand, but they're ready. They're just like, put me in, coach.
That's true.
Meow, meow, meow. I'm hungry.
That is true. There is the Vizier Seer. So as long as, this is still Shuhei's end step, so Shuhei could go, Lightning Bolt, something along that lines to deal with Grist here. And with Dauthi still in hand, you're unable to combo. But we'll see if Shuhei has any response about that. Doesn't look like it.
No, because you kill that Grist before you get to your opponent's main phase if you can.
Yeah.
3 cards, 2 cards. 3 cards.
All right, 3 cards in hand for Shuhei Nakamura, confirmed by Ely Kassis, and for him, oh, geez, he's got how many? 5?
5, yep, and it was
Good
a land.
boy.
It was a land picked up, so no Samwise Gamgee, the ideal draw. But at this point, if Ely is just able to deal with Dauthi Voidwalker, which is the only form of pressure here for Shuhei, then he's just going to start beating down. He's already got 4 damage in play, and he can start playing those cats to some actual success.
I think the Dauthi Voidwalker has sort of distracted us from the fact that Shuhei Nakamura just hasn't had a lot going on. He cast that Terminate, he had the Pyromancer, but he actually hasn't done a whole lot in this game.
And he has 3 cards in hand, so I really am curious to see what we are working with here that you would hold off. I mean, could definitely be just Fury waiting to hard cast it next turn.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yep. There weren't great targets for Fury last time. Don't forget, when Nakamura could have cast it, he had a Delighted Halfling and a Goose.
Yep.
Okay, so Halfling sacrificed to the Grist, and now the Dauthi Voidwalker goes down to the -2 on the Hunger Tide.
Another one of those classic interactions, be like, does it go to the graveyard?
Yep.
I mean, this one with Grist, you sacrifice first and then the Planeswalker does.
It's a little clearer.
That's a little easier, yep.
And then Haywire Might, the follow-up now for Ely. And in comes the Ranger Captain of Eos for 3. So a tidy turn cycle from him with the Collected Company really getting him back into this game. And now Shuhei Nakamura is all of a sudden like way behind.
Yep, and now it's a little awkward. Ely Kassis, from what I can see, is just 3 green-white lands and, some black cards in hand. That was the big thing that this team was talking about. They thought, well, our deck is really awesome, but the mana base, it can be a little lacking.
And black mana found through the use of the Golden Goose.
Yeah.
So back over to Shuhei Nakamura now. 4 cards in hand for him as he draws his 4. But he just stone nothing. Stone nothing. 4 mana available. He did actual nothing. Is this Fury?
Gotta
It's
be,
got
right?
it, right? Like, it has to be Fury. That's the only thing that makes sense here.
And, I mean, that would be excellent. If you're able to Fury, clear out Grist plus the 3/3, or honestly, Grist, Goose plus Haywire Might maybe is even better.
Yeah, there's no point really killing the cat because that's so easy to come back.
I think I saw a go.
You're joking.
Oh. Well,
Did he?
He put up the hand like a go. No, that's a Fury.
Okay.
I'm guessing we did not.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's the Fury. And okay, this makes a lot of sense here. Nakamura has not had a good chance to play this card. One damage, one damage, one damage. There's an extra point of damage flying around there somewhere. We don't know where. It's not super relevant because as it is, that's just a stone cold 3 for 1, and that's what you love to see.
Yep, Fury extremely strong against this deck, and this is the main reason why this matchup is unfavorable, according to Ely.
Yeah, because we saw Ely in that situation just a few moments ago. Very commanding position. He's a Samwise Gamgee away from winning, but now 1 card, 1 5-drop, and Shuhei Nakamura right back in this with a very formidable threat. 6 damage a turn from the Fury, that's no joke.
Exactly. And I think I did see a Terminate in hand for Shuhei as well.
Yes, definitely.
And right now, Ely's hand is bad. 1 Coldron Familiar, 1 Vizier, and a Mystery card with no mana to even cast either of those threats.
Oh, man, that is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
That is not where you want to be. This mana base is very punishing here for poor old Ely. Down to 8 after the attack from the Fury.
And now it's a race. So if you're able to find, you know, maybe green-black filter lands, if we have that in the deck. No, it doesn't look like any. Twilight Mire, I believe.
Yeah, no, I don't
the name
think
of that?
so.
Yeah,
no.
it's all green-white filter land, Wooded Bastions as the thing. But there is a Catacombs to at least get a swamp here.
Okay, let's start.
At the start, you can at least go Coldron Familiar. I mean, at this point, if you did draw Samwise Gamgee, it would be lethal because you have the Vizier Seer if there's no disruption. This is kind of a perfect world, but since we do have the Vizier Seer, and it looks like just 1 card in hand there for Ely, which is the Vizier Seer. So not ideal by any means.
So back up to 8 after the fetch. Took Ely down to 7. This Cauldron Familiar coming in, dinging Shuhei down to 6. We're going to see the Seasoned Pyromancer flashed back, so to speak.
I think that's game. There's a Terminate in hand, so you can just hit Coldron Familiar unless Ely has more cards than I thought.
So that's 8 damage. Yeah, that's 8 damage with the 6 damage from the Fury and the 2 damage from the Elementals here. Terminate definitely in hand. We saw that. I think it's the Textless play. Oh, and a Lightning Bolt as well. He's got everything.
Easy.
He's got it all. Lightning Bolt. There was a Terminate there as well, just in case I think there's a collected company or something. But no, there is not. And Shuhei Nakamura takes it out 2 games to 1 against Ely Kassis. The Samwise Gamgee combo deck not doing its best work against Rakdos Evoke. We talked about this, Corey. You said that Ely identified this as a bad matchup, and that's certainly how things panned out here.
Exactly. Any deck that can just deal with all your creatures when you're that creature combo deck, really going to be a tough one, and no deck, you know, really does it better than Rakdos Evoke. So, yeah, tough matchup, but 2 superstars going at it. That was still a lot of fun to watch.
All right, well, my friends, it's been great to have you for this round. We're going to take a quick break, and of course, on the other side of it, we're going to check in with what's going on next. Corey, what do we got coming up next, my friend?
That is El Starry. What?
Oh, geez, Corey's having a bit of trouble with that. We're trying to adopt that local flavor. Coming up next, my friends, the news desk.
Come on.